Artificial intelligence is not science fiction. It's part of our everyday lives. From trying to cure cancer to chatbots and social media, AI is changing how we work, live, and interact with the world. But as these systems get more powerful, the risks get bigger. How do we make sure AI is safe, fair, and accountable, and is enough being done about AI safety? In this video, we'll explore the state of AI regulation in 2025 in the EU, US, UK, China, Canada, and beyond, and what it means for tech companies, developers, and society. This channel is dedicated to spreading awareness about AI danger and ethical use of our most powerful tool so we can all overcome our anxiety together. If this is something you believe in, be sure to drop a like. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Why AI regulation matters. First of all, why regulate AI at all? AI systems increasingly operate in spaces with high stakes: healthcare, criminal justice, hiring, autonomous systems, content recommendation, etc. If they go wrong, the consequences can be severe. Bias, privacy violations, discrimination, safety failures, and algorithmic opacity can have significant influence on people. On the other hand, overburdensome regulation can slow innovation, hamper competitiveness, and deter investment. So regulators are in a tough balancing act: protect society while not stifling progress. By the end of the video, you'll know which side of the fence different nations are sitting on. I found a very helpful article published by Anecdotes that summarizes this. I will link it in the description. The article is very transparent with its sources, so I recommend you check it out. It frames several motivations for regulation. 1. Privacy and surveillance risks. AI often processes personal data. We need guardrails to prevent misuse. 2. Safety and accountability. AI must behave reliably in high-risk settings. 3. Existential risks. Some leading scientists warn about runaway AI, especially superintelligence. 4. Economic and workforce impact, displacement, inequitable gains. 5. Geopolitics and trade tensions. Different regulatory regimes may clash or affect market access. A good regulatory regime must anticipate not just current risks, but future ones too, and must continuously adapt because change is a constant with technology. Chapter 2. Building blocks of AI regulation. Before we go jurisdiction by jurisdiction, let's look at the building blocks. The common levers regulators use. 1. Risk-based classification tiers. Many laws distinguish high risk from limited risk, from low-no risk AI systems. Higher risk AI deserves stricter rules. 2. Transparency, explainability, requiring systems to be understandable to the average person, especially when they affect people's lives. 3. Accountability, making developers legally and operationally responsible for impacts. 4. Safety, robustness, and security, arguably the most important. We need to make sure AI systems behave reliably, do not disobey orders, and are tested regularly for the public to see. 5. Human oversight. Humans must always retain the ability to intervene or override decisions, something that seems to be slipping away already. Check out my video. AI is already crossing ethical lines to find out more. 6. Data protection, consent, and lawful sourcing. These are not trivial. Implementing them in practice demands deep coordination between legal, technical, and operational teams. Also, many jurisdictions layer these principles on top of existing privacy law, like GDPR and EU. Okay, now let's see how different countries are tackling regulation and trying to implement these 6 principles. Chapter 3. The European Union, EU. Let's start with arguably the world leaders in AI safety with the most advanced and ambitious framework, the EU's AI Act. Passed in 2024, it uses a risk-based approach. AI systems are classified into categories. 1. Unacceptable risk. These are banned outright and involve systems that do social scoring, subliminal manipulation, or mass biometric surveillance. For example, cameras that have facial recognition and record public places. 2. High risk. These are subject to stringent obligations, risk assessments, human oversight, documentation, and robust testing. 3. Limited risk. These systems have transparency obligations, e.g., informing user they're interacting with AI like you may be starting to see on social media platforms. 4. Minimal, no risk, including most consumer apps which require no regulation. It also places rules on general purpose models, e.g., large language models. From August 2025, providers of such models must adhere to transparency, copyright, safety measures, etc. Another video will be made about general-purpose AI and the importance of giving artificial intelligence narrow purposes and objectives. So if you don't want to miss that, hit subscribe. The EU AI Act complements GDPR, adding AI-specific rules without replacing them. One main challenge is enforcement across all EU member states, dealing with cross-border providers and aligning with non-EU vendors. In other words, it's very hard to make people agree when we all want the development of our own nation to be the best. The EU's approach is arguably the strictest among democratic jurisdictions, but it may become global standard given market influence. I personally hope so. Chapter 4. The United States. In the U.S., regulation is more decentralized and less binding so far, which is very concerning because, as my video yesterday explained, they are presently winning the race in AI development. 2 key U.S. documents are: 1. AI Bill of Rights Blueprint, set out in 2022 by the Biden government. This was not legally binding and outlines 5 principles: safe, effective systems, data privacy, notice and explanation, human fallback, and discrimination protections. 2. Executive Order 14,179 passed in 2025 by the Trump administration. This order revokes the prior 2022 order and focuses on removing regulatory impediments to AI leadership. It doesn't impose sweeping new obligations on developers. Rather, it tasks government agencies to review existing rules and relax constraints perceived as stifling innovation. Hence, the USA's current approach is more permissive and pro-innovation, meaning it carries significant risk. Arguably, this is a profit-driven change which is leading to fragmentation and fierce competition amongst AI companies, as they are basically much more free to act as they please without regulation. In my opinion, this sort of policy encourages potential gaps where harm will inevitably slip through. Chapter 5. The UK. The UK is trying to thread a middle path, pro-innovation, but not laissez-faire. Its 2023 white paper, A Pro-Innovation Approach to AI Regulation, lays out a principles-based framework. Key traits. They leverage existing sectoral regulators rather than creating a new AI regulator. They publish cross-sector principles: safety, transparency, accountability, contestability, and redress. This is non-statutory, and currently developers have no legal duties. The idea is flexibility, adapt regulation case by case rather than heavy-handed blanket rules, but seems ambiguous. Sounds like classic British government bullshit to me. Chapter 6. Canada and China. Let's look at 2 interesting contrasts: Canada and China. Canada's proposed Artificial Intelligence and Data Act, AIDA, is geared to high-impact systems. It would require risk assessments, transparency, human oversight, robustness, and would work in tandem with privacy, consumer protection, and human rights laws. However, if you read the language carefully, you realize that actually the act seems more tailored for businesses rather than the common person. AIDA is still under consultation and has not had full implementation yet. China. China's interim measures for generative AI services, in force since mid-2023, are more centralized and strict. Obligations include lawful data use, labeling AI-generated content, content moderation, user complaint mechanisms, regulatory reporting, alignment with socialist core values, and oversight over public opinion. Pre-launch regulatory filings for systems deemed influential. These rules reflect China's willingness to tie AI to state objectives, control narratives, and safeguard stability. The contrast is stark. Canada takes a more liberal, business-minded approach, whilst China emphasizes control, alignment with state interests, and proactive oversight. Chapter 7. International Initiatives. Because AI is inherently global and impacts all 8 billion of us, we must find a way to combine national rules. A few efforts stand out. 1. OECD AI principles. Adopted and updated over time, these principles, transparency, robustness, human rights, accountability, etc., serve as a global benchmark. Many countries try to embed them in their national strategies. However, these are merely recommendations and are not enforceable. 2. GPAI, Global Partnership on AI, a multi-stakeholder network including governments, industry, and civil society that works to translate policy into practice, share best practices, and coordinate research. 44 nations are already part of this, but again, nothing is legally binding. Third Council of Europe Framework Convention on AI, 2024. The first legally binding international treaty on AI and human rights, which puts emphasis on transparency and safety. However, countries can comply directly or via equivalent measures, which arguably leaves margin for error. These mechanisms aim to reduce fragmentation, promote interoperability, and set a floor for AI norms. Chapter 8. Challenges, tensions, and what to watch. Regulating AI is far from simple. Some key tensions and challenges. 1. Innovation versus regulation. Too strict, you kill startups. Too relaxed, and you risk harm. 2. Enforcement across borders. How do you regulate foreign AI providers when we all seem to be competing to get ahead? 3. Regulatory arbitrage. Companies may shift development to more permissive jurisdictions. In other words, if one country is more strict, then a developer may move overseas to evade regulation. 4. Technical complexity. Many models are black boxes. Regulators demand explainability, but in practice that's non-trivial, and we're talking about high-level science that most people just don't get. 5. Updating law to keep pace. This is probably most important because AI evolves fast and laws custom-built today may be outdated tomorrow. 6. Power asymmetries. Big tech companies with abundant resources may be able to comply easily, but smaller players may struggle to keep business afloat, which basically results in big companies getting bigger. What to watch? How the EU enforces its AI Act, how U.S. sectoral rules evolve, FTC, FDA, SEC, especially when you truly never know what Trump will do next. Furthermore, let's see whether the UK formalizes its regulatory duties and how global standards converge or diverge. Subscribe to this channel because I'll be keeping a beady eye on how policy evolves. To wrap up, AI regulation in 2025 is still evolving, with very different models in play, but the key takeaway is that most of it is not legally binding or even being enforced. The EU leads in keeping us safe, the US is more economy-driven, the UK is trying flexibility, China is heavy on control, at least while it benefits the state, and Canada is somewhere in the middle. However, what I notice is that there is not a single mention of superintelligence in any of these policies, something that is possibly our greatest threat as a species. For tech folks, regulation is no longer a distant risk, it's coming. The smartest move is to build AI systems with safety, transparency, and accountability. From day one, especially with the prospect of superintelligence growing. Stay informed, collaborate early, and anticipate not just the law of today, but the law of tomorrow. Let me know which jurisdiction you favor. Drop a comment with your opinion and subscribe for more tech plus AI policy deep dives. Thanks for watching.